My name is Maureen and I am 63 years old. Thanksgiving has always been my favourite holiday. It is the one day when the smell of roasting turkey fills the house, when family gathers around the table, and when love feels tangible in every shared dish. For 40 years I poured my heart into this tradition. I believed that if I loved hard enough, if I gave enough, my family would always have a place to come home to. I never imagined that one Thanksgiving, my own daughter-in-law would snatch the plate right out of my hands and say those words that still echo in my mind. "You have had enough, Grandma." Before I tell you what happened next, I want to ask you something. If you have ever felt invisible at your own family table, if you have ever been made to feel like you do not belong in a place you helped build, then this story is for you. Let me know in the comments where you are watching from today. And if this story touches your heart, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Now let me take you back to where it all began. My son Kevin came into this world after 7 years of trying. My husband Richard and I had almost given up hope when the doctor finally told us the news. I remember holding Kevin for the first time, this tiny bundle wrapped in a blue blanket, and thinking that my life finally made sense. Richard cried that day, the only time I ever saw tears roll down his cheeks. We had waited so long for this miracle. Richard was a carpenter by trade. He built furniture with his hands, solid pieces made from oak and walnut that were meant to last generations. The dining table where we shared every meal, he made that himself. It took him 3 months working evenings and weekends, sanding each plank until it was smooth as silk. That table has seen birthday parties, holiday dinners, homework sessions, and late-night conversations. It holds more memories than any photograph ever could. When Kevin was 12 years old, Richard collapsed in his workshop. His heart gave out without warning. One moment he was sanding a chair leg, and the next moment he was gone. The doctors said it was a massive heart attack, that he probably did not feel any pain. I do not know if that was meant to comfort me, but it did not. My husband was 51 years old. We were supposed to grow old together, watch our son graduate, dance at his wedding, hold our grandchildren. Instead, I stood at his grave on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, holding Kevin's hand, trying to figure out how I would raise this boy alone. I took 2 jobs to keep us afloat. Every morning at 4, I was at the bakery downtown, mixing dough and shaping loaves before the sun came up. By 2 in the afternoon, I was behind the register at the grocery store on Main Street, scanning items and bagging groceries until closing time. My feet ached constantly. My back never stopped hurting, but every night I made sure Kevin had a home-cooked meal on that oak table his father built. I helped him with his homework. I attended every school play, every parent-teacher conference, every little league game. I was determined that losing his father would not mean losing his future. Kevin grew up to be everything I hoped he would be. He was kind, hard-working, and smart. He earned a scholarship to Ohio State University, the first in our family to attend college. I remember driving him to campus that first day, my old Buick loaded down with boxes and bags. When I hugged him goodbye, I held on a little too long. He laughed and said, "Mum, I am only 2 hours away," but I knew things would never be quite the same. After graduation, Kevin landed a job at a large insurance company in Columbus. He worked his way up from entry level to management in just a few years. I was so proud I could burst. My boy had made it. All those early mornings and late nights, all those sacrifices, they had paid off. Our little house in the suburbs of Cincinnati became my sanctuary. It is nothing fancy, just a 3-bedroom ranch with a small backyard garden. But every corner holds a piece of my history. The kitchen where I taught Kevin how to make his father's favourite pot roast. The living room where we watched movies together on Friday nights. The back porch where Richard used to sit and whittle wooden figurines. I have lived in this house for 40 years, and I always assumed it would stay in the family. 8 years ago, Kevin called me with exciting news. He had met someone special. Her name was Priscilla, and he sounded like a teenager in love. She was beautiful, he said, smart and sophisticated. She worked in marketing at a firm downtown. Her family was from Connecticut, old money, the kind of people who summered in the Hamptons and wintered in Aspen. I met Priscilla for the first time on a Sunday afternoon in early spring. I spent 2 days preparing for her visit, cleaning every inch of the house, cooking a roast with all the trimmings. I wanted to make a good impression. I wanted her to see that even though we were simple people, we had love to offer. She arrived in a sleek silver car that probably cost more than my annual salary. She was tall and slender, with perfectly styled blonde hair and manicured nails that looked like they had never seen a day of hard work. She wore designer clothes and carried a handbag that I later learned cost more than my first car. I welcomed her with open arms, literally. I am a hugger, always have been. But when I went to embrace her, she stiffened and gave me an awkward pat on the back. Okay, I thought. She is just not a hugger. That is fine. Dinner went smoothly enough on the surface. I served the roast with roasted vegetables and fresh bread from the bakery. But Priscilla barely touched her food. She pushed it around her plate, taking tiny bites and leaving most of it untouched. I am watching my figure, she explained with a tight smile. Kevin is always telling me I need to try more home cooking, but I prefer lighter fare. I noticed Kevin flinch slightly at her words, but he did not say anything. I told myself she was just nervous. Meeting your boyfriend's mother is stressful. She would warm up eventually. The wedding was planned for the following year, and from the beginning it was clear that my input was neither wanted nor needed. Priscilla's mother, a formidable woman named Judith, took charge of every detail. The ceremony would be held at their country club in Connecticut. The reception would feature a 12-piece orchestra. The guest list included senators, CEOs, and society columnists. My side of the aisle was noticeably sparse. A few of my friends from church, some neighbors, my sister, who flew in from Arizona. I sat in the second row, not the first, because the first row was reserved for Priscilla's immediate family only. When I asked Kevin about it, he looked uncomfortable and mumbled something about limited space. After the wedding, Kevin and Priscilla settled in a suburb of Columbus, about 2 hours from my house. They bought a beautiful colonial with 5 bedrooms, a 3-car garage, and a professionally landscaped yard. It was a far cry from the modest home where Kevin grew up. I tried to visit regularly at first, but it quickly became clear that I was not entirely welcome. Priscilla always seemed to have something else planned when I suggested coming over. The house needs cleaning, she would say, or we have a dinner party that weekend. Or simply, it is not a good time. When I did visit, I felt like a guest in a museum rather than a grandmother visiting her family. Priscilla had rules about everything. No shoes past the foyer, no sitting on the white couch in the living room, no snacks outside the kitchen. I once set my coffee cup on the marble countertop without a coaster, and you would have thought I had committed a federal crime. Then Emma was born, and my heart expanded in ways I did not know were possible. My granddaughter with Kevin's brown eyes and a tiny nose that reminded me of Richard. I held her in the hospital, tears streaming down my face, and I whispered promises to her. I would teach her to bake. I would tell her stories about her grandfather. I would love her with every fibre of my being. 2 years later, Lucas arrived. A grandson. Richard would have been over the moon. I imagined teaching him to whittle just like his great-grandfather had taught Kevin. But as the children grew, Priscilla found more and more reasons to limit my time with them. They have swim lessons on Saturdays. They need quiet time on Sundays. They are too young for sleepovers. They have allergies to everything I wanted to feed them. I adjusted, I accommodated. I bent over backward to fit into whatever box Priscilla drew for me. I told myself that this was just how modern families worked, that I was being too sensitive, that if I just kept showing love, eventually it would break through. I could not have been more wrong. The first real crack appeared on my 63rd birthday. I woke up that morning feeling hopeful. I had mentioned my birthday to Kevin a few times in the weeks leading up to it, casually dropping hints about wanting to spend the day with family. Maybe they could drive down, I suggested, or I could come up. We could have cake. The kids could blow out the candles with me. Kevin had nodded and said he would check with Priscilla. On the morning of my birthday, I made myself a cup of coffee and sat by the phone. By noon, no call. By 3 o'clock, still nothing. I checked my phone a dozen times, making sure the ringer was on, making sure I had not missed anything. At 7:30 that evening, my phone finally rang. It was Kevin. "Mom, I am so sorry," he said, his voice rushed. "Things got crazy here today. Priscilla had a charity luncheon, and then she organized a dinner party for some of her friends. I completely lost track of time. I wanted to ask how he could lose track of his own mother's birthday. I wanted to ask why a dinner party for Priscilla's friends mattered more than a phone call to me, but I did not say any of that. It is okay, sweetheart," I said instead. "I know you are busy. I will make it up to you," he promised. "We will celebrate next time you visit." There was no next time celebration. The next time I visited 3 weeks later, my birthday was not mentioned at all. That summer, Kevin called to tell me about their vacation plans. They were going to Florida, he said. 2 weeks at a resort on the Gulf Coast. The kids were excited about the beach and the water park. "That sounds wonderful," I said, genuinely happy for them. Then before I could stop myself, I added, Maybe I could join you for a few days. I could get my own room, pay my own way. I just miss the kids so much." There was a long pause. I could hear muffled voices in the background, and I knew Kevin was consulting with Priscilla. "Mom, the thing is, Priscilla thinks this should be a trip for just our immediate family. You know, quality time for the four of us. Immediate family." The words hit me like a slap. I was his mother. I was the woman who had raised him alone, who had sacrificed everything for him. And I was not immediate family. "Of course," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I understand. You kids have a wonderful time." I spent those 2 weeks alone in my house, scrolling through the photos Priscilla posted on social media. Emma building sandcastles, Lucas splashing in the waves, Kevin with his arms around his wife, both of them tanned and smiling. A beautiful family on a beautiful vacation. I was nowhere to be seen because I was nowhere to be found. Christmas that year brought its own disappointment. I had spent weeks knitting sweaters for Emma and Lucas. For Emma, a soft pink cardigan with pearl buttons, the same shade of pink she had admired in a store window during her last visit. For Lucas, a blue pullover with a little car embroidered on the front because he was obsessed with vehicles of all kinds. I wrapped them carefully in tissue paper, drove 2 hours to deliver them in person, and watched as Priscilla opened the box. "Oh," she said, holding up Emma's sweater with 2 fingers as if it might be contaminated. "That is sweet, Maureen. But I should tell you, the kids are sensitive to certain fabrics. Natural fibers make them itchy. I will probably have to donate these." "They are cotton," I said quietly. 100% cotton. I checked the labels specifically. Priscilla gave me a patronizing smile. "Well, you know how tricky allergies can be. Better safe than sorry." She dropped the sweaters back into the box and set it aside. I watched as my hours of work, my love stitched into every fiber, were dismissed without a second thought. I saw those sweaters later that month in a donation bin at the local church. I recognized the pink cardigan, the blue pullover with the little car. Someone else's grandchild would wear them now. The incident in September should have been my wake-up call. I had driven up for a surprise visit, hoping to spend the afternoon with Emma and Lucas. When I arrived, they were in the living room, and Emma ran to hug me. "Grandma," she shouted. "I missed you." I scooped her up, breathed in the scent of her strawberry shampoo, and felt my heart swell. This is why I put up with everything I thought. These children. "Tell me what you have been learning in school," I said, settling onto the couch with her on my lap. Emma launched into a story about her teacher, her friends, her favourite book. Then she asked me a question. "Grandma, what was Grandpa Richard like?" My eyes misted over. I had told her stories before, but she was getting old enough now to really understand. I started telling her about her grandfather, how he used to carve little animals out of wood, how he could fix anything with his hands, how much he would have loved her. I was mid-sentence when Priscilla appeared in the doorway. "Maureen," she interrupted sharply. "A word, please." I set Emma down and followed Priscilla into the kitchen. "I would appreciate it if you did not fill the children's heads with sad stories." Priscilla said, her arms crossed. "They are too young to hear about death and loss. I was just telling her about her grandfather," I said. "Happy memories. There was nothing sad about it." "Nevertheless," Priscilla said firmly, "please check with me before you discuss sensitive topics with my children." Her children, not Kevin's children, hers. Kevin walked in, then probably having heard our voices. He looked between us, clearly sensing the tension. "Everything okay?" he asked. Priscilla answered before I could. "Just setting some boundaries. Your mother was telling Emma about Richard." Kevin looked at me, and for a moment I saw something flicker in his eyes. Guilt maybe, or regret. But it disappeared quickly. "Mom, maybe just keep it light?" "Okay," he said. "She is only 6. I nodded, not trusting my voice. I stayed for another hour, but the visit felt hollow. I drove home with a heaviness in my chest that would not lift. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, I received a phone call from Kevin. I was so shocked to see his number that I nearly dropped my phone. "Mum, he said we want you to come for Thanksgiving this year." Priscilla suggested it. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. For 3 years, I had not been invited to a single holiday at their house. I had spent Thanksgivings and Christmases alone, or with my church friends pretending it was fine, pretending I was not hurt. "Really?" I asked, unable to hide the hope in my voice. "Yes," he said. But Priscilla was wondering if you could come early, like really early. To help with the cooking and setting up, she says she could use an extra pair of hands. Of course, I said immediately. I would love to help. What time should I be there? 6:30 in the morning, 6:30. That meant waking up at 4, driving 2 hours in the dark. But I did not hesitate. I will be there, I said. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, holding the phone against my chest. This was it. This was my chance. If I helped make Thanksgiving perfect, maybe Priscilla would finally see me as part of the family. Maybe things would change. I spent the next 2 weeks preparing. I bought ingredients for my pumpkin pie, the same recipe my mother had taught me, the same pie Richard used to request every year. I purchased a beautiful autumn floral arrangement for the dining table. I wrapped small gifts for Emma and Lucas, little things I knew they would love. This Thanksgiving would be different, I told myself. This Thanksgiving would be the beginning of something new. I had no idea just how right I was. I barely slept the night before Thanksgiving. I was too excited, too anxious, too hopeful. At 3:45 in the morning, my alarm went off, but I was already awake staring at the ceiling, running through my mental checklist. By 4:15, I was in the car, the pumpkin pie secured in a carrier on the passenger seat, the flower arrangement in a box in the back. The roads were empty, the sky still dark, and I drove through the silence, thinking about all the Thanksgivings past, all the ones Richard and I had shared with Kevin when he was young. I remembered the year Kevin was 5 and insisted on helping me mash the potatoes. He had made such a mess, flinging bits of potato across the kitchen, but we had laughed until our sides hurt. I remembered the year he was 13, the first Thanksgiving without Richard, when Kevin had held my hand under the table during the blessing, because he knew I was struggling not to cry. Those memories carried me through the dark highway miles. I arrived at Kevin's house at 6:28, 2 minutes early. The neighborhood was still sleeping houses, dark lawns glistening with frost. I grabbed the pie and the flowers and walked up the path to the front door. When I rang the bell, it took several minutes for someone to answer. Finally, the door swung open and there was Priscilla in a silk robe, her hair slightly disheveled, her expression pinched. "You are early," she said flatly. I said 7. I glanced at my watch. It was barely past 6:30. "I apologize," I said. "I wanted to make sure I was on time. I thought I could start setting up." Priscilla sighed heavily as if I had inconvenienced her terribly by arriving 30 minutes ahead of schedule. "Fine. Come in. The kitchen is through there. You know where everything is." She turned and walked away without another word, leaving me standing in the foyer with my pie and my flowers. No greeting. No thank you for driving 2 hours before dawn. No hug. I took a breath, reminded myself why I was here, and headed to the kitchen. The space was immaculate as always, all marble countertops and stainless steel appliances. A massive turkey sat in the refrigerator, still partially frozen. Bags of vegetables covered the counter, unprepared. The dining room table was bare. I set down my pie, placed the flowers on the counter, and got to work. For the next 6 hours, I did not stop moving. I prepped the turkey, rubbing it with butter and herbs, carefully placing it in the roasting pan. I peeled and chopped vegetables, mountains of carrots, celery, onions, and potatoes. I made the stuffing from scratch, toasting the bread, sorting the aromatics. I prepared the gravy base, the cranberry sauce, the green bean casserole. Priscilla appeared occasionally to critique my work. "The carrots are cut unevenly. The stuffing needs more sage. Why did you use that serving platter instead of this one?" I adjusted. I complied. I bit my tongue. Kevin came home around 11, fresh from a golf game with his college buddies. He kissed Priscilla on the cheek, waved at me across the kitchen, and disappeared upstairs to shower. At noon, Emma and Lucas finally came downstairs. They ran to me, throwing their arms around my legs, and for a few precious moments, everything felt worth it. Grandma Emma squealed, "You are here?" I knelt down to their level, hugging them tight. "I missed you both so much," I said. "Happy Thanksgiving." But before we could exchange another word, Priscilla was there. "Kids, go wash up for lunch. Do not bother Grandma. She has a lot of work to do." I watched them scamper off their little feet, pattering up the stairs. My arms felt empty. By 2 o'clock, the guests began arriving. First came Priscilla's parents, Harold and Judith. Harold was a tall man with silver hair and a firm handshake, the kind of person who seemed to be assessing your net worth while making small talk. Judith was elegant in a way that made me feel underdressed in my simple navy blouse and slacks. I extended my hand to greet them. "Happy Thanksgiving." "So nice to see you again." Judith gave me a once over her smile, not quite reaching her eyes. Maureen. Still living in that little house in Cincinnati. Yes, I said. Same house. 40 years now. Judith made a small humming sound as if I had confirmed something disappointing about myself. She then turned away to greet Priscilla with air kisses. Priscilla's sister Simone arrived next with her husband Derek and their 2 children. Simone was a younger version of Priscilla. Same blonde hair, same cutting gaze. Derek seemed pleasant enough, though he avoided eye contact and stuck close to his phone. As I carried platters of food to the dining room, I overheard Judith speaking to Priscilla in the living room. Darling, next year you really should hire a caterer. Homemade food is so unpredictable. You never know how things will turn out. I kept walking, pretending I had not heard. But the word stung. I had been cooking since before Priscilla was born. My food had won ribbons at the county fair. Richard used to say my Thanksgiving dinners were better than any restaurant. But here in this house, I was just the help. At 3 o'clock, I brought out my pumpkin pie and set it on the dessert table, which had already been arranged with pastries from what Priscilla called a French bakery downtown. Elegant tarts, delicate petit fours, a towering croquembouche. My pie in its simple glass dish looked humble by comparison. But it was made with love. It was made with generations of tradition. Priscilla spotted it immediately. Oh, she said, picking it up and examining it. You brought pie. I wish you had mentioned it. I already ordered dessert. I wanted to contribute something, I said softly. Priscilla set the pie down at the very edge of the table, half hidden behind the croquembouche. Well, we will see if anyone has room for it. At 4 o'clock, we gathered around the table. I counted the chairs, 14 in total. The seating arrangement had been carefully planned, little name cards at each place setting. I found my name at the far end of the table, sandwiched between the 2 children's seats and facing the wall. The seat at the head of the table, where the matriarch should sit, was occupied by Judith. Harold sat at the opposite head. Kevin and Priscilla were positioned near the centre, surrounded by Simone, Derek, and their children. I was as far from the heart of the gathering as physically possible. But I was next to Emma and Lucas, I reminded myself. I was next to the people who loved me unconditionally. That was enough. Kevin's voice broke through my thoughts. He was standing, asking Harold to say the blessing. Harold cleared his throat and launched into a formal prayer, thanking God for the food, the family, the blessings of the year. He mentioned Priscilla and her wonderful hosting. He mentioned Judith and her wisdom. He mentioned the children and their bright futures. He did not mention me, not once. When the prayer ended and people began passing dishes, I looked around the table at all the food I had spent hours preparing, the turkey glistening with golden skin, the stuffing piled high, the vegetables roasted to perfection. My hands had made all of this. Priscilla Judith said, taking a bite of the stuffing, "This is absolutely divine. Your best yet." Priscilla smiled graciously. "Thank you, Mother. I tried a new recipe this year." I kept my eyes on my plate, saying nothing. The moment that changed everything began quietly enough. I had been working since before dawn without eating a single thing. My stomach had been growling for hours, but there was always something else that needed doing, another dish to prepare, another platter to carry. By the time I finally sat down at the table, I was exhausted and famished. I reached for the serving spoon and put some food on my plate. A modest portion of turkey breast, a scoop of the mashed potatoes I had whipped by hand, some green beans, a drizzle of the gravy I had simmered for 2 hours. My plate was not overflowing. It was not piled high. It was a normal serving, nothing more. I had just picked up my fork when I heard Priscilla's voice cut through the table conversation. Maureen. I looked up. Priscilla was staring at me from several seats away, her eyes fixed on my plate. "Do you really think you need all that food?" The table went silent. Every conversation stopped. Every pair of eyes turned toward me. "I am sorry," I said, certain I had misheard. Priscilla set down her wineglass with exaggerated care. "I am just saying, at your age you should probably be more careful about what you eat. Heart disease runs in families, does it not?" Kevin told me about his father. The mention of Richard hit me like a physical blow. She was using my husband's death, the most painful event of my life, as a weapon against me at the dinner table. I managed to keep my voice steady. "I appreciate your concern, but I am quite healthy." Priscilla was already pushing back her chair. She stood up and walked the length of the table toward me, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. "Really, Maureen?" She said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "I am just looking out for you." And then before I could process what was happening, she reached down and took my plate. She took my plate right out from in front of me. "You have had enough, Grandma," she said. "Let me get you some salad instead." She carried my plate away, walking back toward the kitchen as if she had done nothing unusual, as if she had not just humiliated me in front of 11 people, as if this was perfectly normal behavior. I sat frozen, staring at the empty space in front of me. From across the table, I heard Judith stifle a laugh behind her napkin. Simone exchanged a smirk with Derek. The children looked confused, especially Emma, whose brow was furrowed. Mommy Emma said, her little voice piercing the silence. "Why did you take Grandma's food?" Priscilla snapped back sharply. "Emma, eat your dinner. This does not concern you." But I looked at Kevin, my son, the boy I had raised alone, sacrificed for love, unconditionally. He was sitting there with his face flushed red, staring down at his own plate. He said nothing. He did absolutely nothing. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. It was not anger, not exactly. It was something quieter and far more powerful. It was clarity. I had spent years bending myself into impossible shapes to fit into this family. I had accepted being excluded, overlooked, dismissed. I had told myself that keeping the peace was more important than standing up for myself. I had believed that if I just loved enough, gave enough, sacrificed enough, things would eventually get better. But they were never going to get better. Not as long as I kept allowing myself to be treated this way. I did not cry. I did not raise my voice. I did not cause a scene. Instead, I placed my napkin on the table and slowly stood up. "Excuse me for a moment," I said quietly. I walked out of the dining room through the living room to where I had left my purse by the front door. Inside that purse was a thick manila envelope I had brought with me. I had planned to give it to Kevin after dessert when the mood was festive and the timing felt right. I picked up the envelope and walked back to the dining room. Everyone was still seated, though conversation had resumed in awkward, hushed tones. When they saw me standing there holding the envelope, the talking stopped again. I had something I wanted to give to Kevin and Priscilla today. I said, my voice calm and clear. I was going to wait until after dessert, but I think now is the right time. I walked to where Kevin sat and placed the envelope on the table in front of him. "Go ahead," I said. "Open it." Kevin looked at me uncertainly, then at Priscilla, then back at the envelope. He undid the clasp and pulled out the documents inside. It took him a moment to understand what he was looking at. When comprehension dawned, his face went pale. "Mom," he breathed, "this is the deed to your house." "Yes," I said. "I was going to sign it over to you. An early inheritance. I wanted you and your family to have it. I wanted Emma and Lucas to have a place to come home to the same house where you grew up, where your father and I started our life together." Priscilla's expression shifted from confusion to interest. She leaned over to look at the documents. "That is very generous," she said, and for the first time all day, her voice held something other than disdain. I reached down and took the envelope back. "But I have changed my mind." The words hung in the air. Priscilla's face hardened. "You just showed me exactly what kind of person you are," I said, looking directly at her. "In front of your children, in front of your entire family, you took food from an old woman who had spent all day cooking for you. You humiliated me at my own family's table, and you invoked my late husband's death to justify your cruelty." I turned to Kevin. "And you," I said, my voice cracking slightly despite my efforts to stay composed. "You are my son. I raised you alone after your father died. I worked 2 jobs so you could go to college. I gave you everything I had. And you sat there and watched your wife treat me like garbage, and you said nothing." "Mom," Kevin started, but I held up my hand. "I am not finished," I said. "I have been making excuses for both of you for years. I told myself Priscilla would warm up to me. I told myself you were just caught in the middle. I told myself that if I just kept giving, kept loving, kept sacrificing, eventually I would earn my place in this family. But I was wrong. You cannot earn something that should be freely given, and you cannot love someone into treating you with basic human dignity." I picked up my coat from the chair where I had draped it hours earlier. "I am leaving now," I said. "Emma, Lucas, Grandma loves you. I want you both to remember that no matter what. You are the best thing in my life, and I will always be here for you." I bent down and hugged each of them tightly. Emma clung to me, her little arms wrapped around my neck. "Do not go, Grandma," she whispered. "I have to, sweetheart," I said, kissing her forehead. "But I will see you soon. I promise." I straightened up and looked around the table one last time. Harold had the decency to look uncomfortable. Judith was examining her manicure, pretending none of this was happening. Simone and Derek avoided my gaze. "Happy Thanksgiving, everyone," I said. Then I walked out the front door and did not look back. The drive home felt different from the drive there. The darkness outside matched something inside me, but it was not despair. It was not sadness, at least not entirely. It was the strange hollow peace that comes after you finally let go of something you have been clutching too tightly for too long. My hands were steady on the wheel. The highway stretched ahead of me, empty and quiet. I did not turn on the radio. I did not need noise to fill the silence. For the first time in years, the silence did not feel lonely. It felt like mine. About an hour into the drive, I pulled off at a rest stop. Not because I was tired, but because I needed a moment to breathe. I parked under a flickering streetlight, turned off the engine, and sat there in the stillness. And then the tears came. They were not the tears I expected. They were not tears of humiliation or anger. They were tears of grief for all the years I had wasted trying to earn love that should have been freely given. For the relationship with my son that had been slowly eroding. For the grandmother I wanted to be but was never allowed to become. I cried for Richard too. For the partner I lost too soon, who never would have allowed any of this to happen. Richard would have stood up for me. Richard would have seen through Priscilla from the beginning. But Richard was gone, and I had been navigating this alone. When the tears finally stopped, I went into the rest stop and bought myself a cup of coffee. The woman behind the counter was probably about my age, with tired eyes and a kind smile. "Rough night?" she asked. You could say that I replied. She handed me my coffee and said, "Well, whatever it is, I hope tomorrow is better." I thanked her and walked back to my car. As I drove the remaining hour home, I thought about what she said. Tomorrow. There would be a tomorrow. There would be many tomorrows. And for the first time in a long time, those tomorrows felt like they belonged to me. I learned later what happened after I left. Kevin told me weeks later when he finally came to see me. The scene I left behind was exactly what I imagined it would be. After the front door closed behind me, there was a long moment of silence. Then Judith, ever the diplomat, had said something like, "Well, that was certainly dramatic." Priscilla had tried to laugh it off. She has always been oversensitive. She will calm down and call in a few days, apologizing. But Kevin did not let it go. Something in him had finally snapped. "What did you just do?" he asked Priscilla. "Excuse me. You humiliated my mother, in front of everyone, on Thanksgiving. Do you even realize what just happened?" Priscilla had stiffened. I was looking out for her health. She should not be eating heavy foods at her age. Kevin's voice grew louder. She spent all day cooking this meal. She drove 2 hours to get here before sunrise. And you took her plate away from her like she was a disobedient child. Harold tried to intervene. "Kevin, perhaps this is a conversation for later." "No," Kevin said. "This is a conversation for right now. Did any of you even know that my mother made almost all of this food?" He gestured at the table, the turkey, the sides, the stuffing. "She was here at 6:30 this morning," he continued. "She has been in the kitchen for hours. And you?" Kevin pointed at Judith. "You complimented Priscilla on the stuffing." "My mother made that stuffing. She made everything." Judith had the grace to look uncomfortable, but she said nothing. Priscilla tried to regain control. "Kevin, you are overreacting. This is not appropriate in front of the children." "What is not appropriate?" Kevin said, his voice breaking, "is treating my mother like a servant and then humiliating her in front of everyone she was trying to impress. What is not appropriate is making her sit at the end of the table like an afterthought. What is not appropriate is using my father's death to shame her about what she eats." Emma started crying. Lucas looked confused and frightened. Kevin pushed back from the table. "I need some air," he said, and walked out of the room. The rest of the evening, according to Kevin, was a disaster. The meal continued in strained silence. Priscilla's family left early, making excuses about traffic. The pie I had made my mother's recipe sat untouched on the dessert table. No one had the appetite for it. Kevin spent the night in the guest room. He and Priscilla barely spoke for the next 3 days. Meanwhile, I arrived home just before midnight. The house was dark and quiet. I turned on the lights in the kitchen, put my keys on the counter, and stood there for a moment looking around. This was my house. The house Richard and I had bought together. The house where I raised Kevin. The house I had been ready to give away. I walked to the living room and sat down on the couch, still in my coat. On the mantel were photographs of better times. Kevin as a baby. Richard and me on our wedding day. Family holidays when the laughter was genuine and the love was unquestioned. I picked up the photo of Richard and held it close. "I finally did it," I whispered. "I finally stood up for myself. I wish you had been there to see it." I did not eat dinner that night. I was not hungry. Instead, I made myself a cup of tea, sat in my favorite chair, and watched the first Thanksgiving snow begin to fall outside my window. The first week after Thanksgiving was the quietest of my life. I turned my phone off for 2 full days, letting the silence wrap around me like a blanket. When I finally turned it back on, there were 23 missed calls from Kevin, 11 from Priscilla, and dozens of text messages. Kevin's messages started frantic and apologetic. "Mom, please call me. I am so sorry. I should have said something. Please let me explain." They gradually became more desperate. "I know I failed you. I know I was a coward. Please do not shut me out." Priscilla's messages were a different story. The first few were curt. "Maureen, your behavior was completely uncalled for. You ruined Thanksgiving for the children." Later, when she apparently realized I was not responding, her tone shifted. "Perhaps we should discuss what happened like adults. Call me when you are ready to apologize." I did not call anyone, not yet. I needed time to process everything, to figure out what I wanted my life to look like going forward. Instead, I focused on myself for the first time in years. I pulled out the books I had been meaning to read, stacks of novels that had gathered dust on my nightstand. I worked in my garden, even though it was cold, preparing the beds for spring planting. I made myself proper meals, sitting down at Richard's table to eat them, slowly savoring each bite. On the 4th day, I called my oldest friend Dorothy. She and I had known each other since high school, had been bridesmaids, at each other's weddings, had supported each other through the hardest moments of our lives. "I heard what happened," Dorothy said before I could even begin. "Kevin called me looking for you. He is a mess." "Good," I said, surprising myself with the firmness in my voice. "He should be." Dorothy was quiet for a moment. "Tell me everything." So I did. I told her about the years of small slights, the birthday that was forgotten, the vacation I was excluded from, the sweaters that were donated, the way Priscilla controlled access to my grandchildren. I told her about the plate being snatched away, about the invocation of Richard's death, about Kevin's silence. When I finished, Dorothy let out a long breath. "Maureen," she said, "you should have told me all this years ago. I knew things were strained, but I had no idea it was this bad. I did not want to burden anyone, I admitted, and I kept hoping it would get better." "It was never going to get better," Dorothy said gently. "Not as long as you kept accepting the way they treated you." "I know that now," I said. "I finally know." We talked for 2 more hours. Dorothy made me promise to take care of myself, to not rush into any decisions, to give myself grace. Before we hung up, she said something I have never forgotten. "You did not lose your dignity.